Good morning. Good morning.
Friends.
Hi, friend.
How are you?
So good to see you too.
Flu is taking everyone out. Our guests had to cancel.
A
So it's
guest had
just
to
the three of
cancel.
us.
Just a housekeeping note for you guys. I had to change our YouTube password. I changed it. I tried to use beef stew, but Google said it wasn't stroganoff.
Ouch.
Hey, you tell the punchline first. How do you mess up a dad joke?
That's good.
All right.
That's
you
good.
guys are the worst. I had a dad joke about pizza, but maybe it was too cheesy. All right, let's go.
All right.
That's
a
so
good
meta.
one.
You guys both had meta dad jokes.
Oh,
Very-
I mean, we're going next level on our dad
Next
jokes,
level.
Anthony.
Very-
Next level.
Very unimpressive.
Listen, I have a question for you guys. Are you bankrupting your most critical asset before your company even runs out of cash? Mathilde Collin, founder of Front, realized this hidden debt was killing her company. So she deleted all apps and audited her mental notifications to survive. She proved that protecting your psychology isn't just self-care, it's the only way to keep the lights on. Today on How to Founder, we are going to be talking about the hidden psychology sabotaging your startup's growth. I'm your host, Stephanie Hayes, and with me today are my wonderful, sometimes co-hosts, Anthony Franco and Chris Franks. Hi, fellows. Listen, what do you know about...
I don't like the way you said fellows.
Fellows, my dear fellows.
It was said with disdain. I don't care for it.
Yeah.
All right. What do you know about burnout? Anthony.
Burnout is a myth.
I mean, Chris.
That is so great. I'm glad we're setting up the episode about burnout by saying you don't believe in burnout.
I don't believe in burnout. Burnout is a myth.
It's never happened to you, eh?
Do I get tired? Yeah. Do I have to take a break? Yeah. But burnout, I don't think burnout exists. I don't think it. I think you're struggling with burnout because whenever I'm struggling with burnout, it's because I'm struggling with the problem I can't solve. I don't think it's that I'm too tired. It's that I'm hitting a wall and I don't see a way out. That's what burnout is. And that just means I need to walk away from the problem because sometimes the solutions present itself, or I need to pick something else to go solve.
Okay. Chris,
I love that you just said you don't believe in burnout and then just described burnout and how you solve it, but saying that you don't believe in burnout. You've like completely gone around. So Stephanie, burnout is real, is a very real phenomenon. It happens to founders more frequently than it happens to people in other professions. However, it is a very real thing. It is exceptionally costly. It's exceptionally costly to businesses. It has been studied and identified as prolonged periods of stress whereby a person ceases to be productive in any form or fashion. They still might be showing up to work, but they really have a dramatic dip in productivity. And so, Anthony, when you say, I can't solve the problem and I walk away from the problem, that's also burnout. So you have experienced burnout. You're just saying you don't believe it because you call it something different.
Yeah. So I think like that. And so I'm sort of somewhere in between both of you. I'm a how to
Not
founder.
yet. Let me change the now
It's
you
the
are.
how
Now you're
to
between
founder
both of us.
Hey.
So to me, so burnout traditionally has been, and tell me if this resonates with you guys, burnout traditionally has been sort of characterized as like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I don't have any more energy left. And a lot of people attribute it to overworking, right? Which, you know, we all know as founders, we work a lot, and we tend to do it because sometimes it's based on need and sometimes it's just our enthusiasm. What I have discovered about burnout is it's actually a function of misalignment. Like it's like I get burned out when I don't know the answer. I don't know where I'm going. I don't have a vision or a direction. And I find with a lot of my CEOs, it's the same thing. They say, oh, I'm in burnout. Well, they don't have the energy because they don't know where they're going. Like they have been toiling and toiling and toiling away at something that maybe isn't working, or they are working towards something that they don't feel aligned with. Now, is there a possibility that you can get burned out from being overtired and overworked? Yeah, 100%, right? Like there's only so much a human body can take. But that's been sort of my take on it, is that a lot of people who say I'm burned out, they're burned out sort of psychologically and mentally and emotionally, in addition to being physically worn out. So tell me what you think about that.
So the thing that's interesting is both of you went to founders cause and solution of burnout. The first thing that we have to acknowledge is that burnout is it's a very real thing that's been studied and identified. And it is something that happens to people, and it's classified again, prolonged stress and dip of productivity. And so if we just start there by saying, okay, let's not say that it's not a real thing. Let's just say
I've read the study. It was commissioned by Prozac, so I don't believe it.
This is similar to smoking is bad for you, or smoking is good for you by so yes, let's start with that foundation, because it can be very, very real. Now, what I think you guys have gotten to is also very, very true. The times in my life as a founder when I've been most burned out is I didn't see a path forward. And we all do work exceptionally hard. It's not something that is, it's almost kind of the single commonality of founders is that they have an incredible strong work ethic. And yes, there's a cause for me where it's like, hey, if I don't see a path forward, it's easier for me to end up in a place where I'm burning myself out. That's also not true for every single founder. Some people have a very, very clear pathway, and they just fall victim to this thing that we used to call hustle porn, like where people would be like, I'm working in 95 hours a week and I'm doing, like I'm crushing it and all this sort of stuff. And if you're not doing that, you're not working hard enough. And that's all bullshit. Like that's not real, because people, I don't care if you're 18 or 80, you cannot be productive for 150 hours a week. It's just not, it's not a thing. And so there's this other side to this, which is like, okay, what we're saying is true. If you don't have a clear path forward, it's easier to fall victim to this. But the idea of burnout is a bigger concept than just what we're talking about.
100%. I absolutely agree with that. And I think the important thing to know, though, is that sometimes the answer is not rest, right? So if I'm burned out because I'm like strategically, psychologically misaligned and I can't get past that, it doesn't matter how much I rest. I'm still not going to get past what I'm burned out on, right? So I think that it's important to recognize that there's lots of different sort of nuances and contributors. So, Chris, when has this been real for you?
So I'll go back to after I sold CleverFunnel, and at the end of CleverFunnel, I've told you guys I was legitimately burned out. And to the point where my productivity was dropping. And yes, some of it was the fact of before I ended up, going through the sales process where I was trying to negotiate and sell the company, I was struggling to figure out what I was going to do and whether I wanted to stay with the company, whatever. But then even as I went through and I exited the company, I was really tired. And I classified that by, I was still interested and I was working and I was learning and I was teaching. So it wasn't like I completely checked out, but also the idea of jumping in and doing another startup was just not something that was appealing to me. I didn't want to do what I'm doing now, which isn't being in the grind, all that sort of stuff. I just needed some mental space. And I think that this is probably one of the core principles, which is what you guys are saying is it's not rest. I agree. Unless rest is the thing that where you can truly recharge your mind. For us, and this is the commonality of weird ADHD people is that we don't need to rest and do nothing. That's terrible. We need to just dive in and learn about something different or engage in some sort of a different task. I think that was true for me at least, but also curious about y'all's experience too.
This is really new. This is really recent for me because, in fact, I was in that place where what I needed was rest. And it was rest for being physically tired, but it was also a break mentally for like I was saturated and I was literally working. When I say I was working every waking hour of every single day of the week, it's true because I had all these responsibilities and all these deadlines and things that I had committed to and whatever. And right up until the point that my daughter and I went away on vacation, it was, and then I remember sitting there the next morning waiting for us to leave for the airport. And I had like an hour where everything was done. I was ready and we didn't have to leave for an hour. And I was sitting there on the couch and I was like, I feel like I've just been in PTSD. Like I seriously was at a point where my body was breaking down. So not only was I exhausted and there was no break, I started to resent all of the work. I started to resent my responsibilities. I started to resent myself. And I was just exhausted. I couldn't be effective because I was so saturated. So that is true. Like that is a real thing that we have to watch for. So I think the question becomes, how do we build that into, how do we build those protections into our work and the way that we work so that we don't make that same mistake? Because when I came back, I was like, this has got to change. Like and I protect my weekends now, like even though I'm tempted to go and work. So Anthony, has this been your experience? Like you say, I don't believe in burnout, but is that true?
I think I'm like Forrest Gump.
Like,
like I'm not that bright. No, I'm not that bright. No, because I mean, I look at it like when I'm tired, I sleep. When I'm hungry, I eat. Like I listen. I guess listening to my body makes it sound. Listening to what's going on in my head makes it sound like I'm conscious about it. So I work until I can't work anymore, and then I stop. And because any more after that, it's not productive. Like I get nothing done. I guess I've spun enough cycles doing nothing and working really hard at doing nothing that I just don't do that anymore. So I wish I could. I really don't understand after you've been doing this for, let's say just a year. Why would you force yourself into a situation where you're knowingly not productive and probably doing more harm than good?
I think but to your point, Stephanie, that's the first element of burnout that I think that we need to be very aware of. And Anthony, it sounds like you are, which is there is a moment of diminishing.
I am not, or I am aware.
No, you are. It sounds like you get to the point where you realize that you get to a place of diminishing returns. If you put in an extra hour, you're not going to get an hour return on that investment.
I'm probably going to wind up doing myself. I'm going to have to fix whatever I did for that hour, and it's going to take me more time to fix it than the hour that I tried to push through it.
But this is where it starts to snowball, is because I'm 50 and I've been doing this for a long time, and I just and I think founders do this is it's like one more thing that I can do to contribute to the success of my business, and one more thing that I can do, and all of a sudden you're overcommitted and you've got you're showing up, and so we don't delegate, we don't build the team. And that's always the question: when do I start to build a team around me? And when you get to that point where it's truly like impacting your health and truly impacting your ability to be effective, that's the point that things do change. And I know that like it forced me to come back and be like, hey, this is a non-negotiable now, and to pull that back, right? But I think it's a slippery slope. especially when we're, excited about something and getting into, and I've been in creation mode all this year, right? So I think a lot of founders get into that creation mode and they stay there, and then it becomes more responsibility and more responsibility, and they feel responsible. And, it's not
Let
like
me
they're
let me ask this
purposeful.
question. So I think I just realized something. So if I constantly feel behind, I constantly feel like I don't have enough time in the day to get the things that I want to get done. I've felt that for 25 years. I think that's just so. Is chasing, completing your list the cause of burnout, or is it better just to be comfortable with the fact that you have anxiety, that you have a lot of stuff to do, that you're not going to? It's just you're always going to be behind. Are they? How are those related? Or am I trying to make a connection here that doesn't exist?
I think you just nailed it, which is the piece that you're saying is that you're comfortable living in a place where you have more shit to do than you're ever going to get done, right? And that's something, and I know you are. Like, it's
I am constantly not delivering on stuff I should be. Yes,
that's exactly
true.
right. You're constantly underachieving. It's amazing. It's like you're so comfortable with your underachieving.
So the cure to burnout is being an underachiever.
That's
Done.
exactly
I'm
right.
there.
It's no, but you hit on the main factor. And Stephanie, this is what I'd be interested to hear from you, which is when I'm in a place of where I'm working so hard that I'm starting to ignore the fact that I'm experiencing diminishing returns, that I'm starting to be unhealthy, that I'm not doing the things that I need to do to keep myself mentally and physically healthy. I'm starting to stop working out and taking walks and all those things that I need to do to stay healthy. As soon as it's like, that's anxiety, that's fear. That is it showing up. And I've been doing this a long time and it still shows up in my life. It's like, even when I know, I can recognize. That being said, and this is the bigger point, is rewind to those first couple companies you did and how hard you worked because of that fear of failure, right? It was way more acute for me back then than it even is now.
So I'm not sure that I'm driven by the fear of failure. Like that doesn't bother me at all. I'm okay with things not turning out how I had planned. And of course, I always work to make sure that they don't if I can help it. And it's not about, oh, I have to get everything done. It's become a sense of it's when there's a sense of obligation or responsibility where I've committed to too much. And I think that's where a lot of founders get to, is that if it was just like, oh, well, I'm going to, I'm comfortable with a rolling to-do list, right? Like there's always going to be something that I'm not working on yet, or I haven't gotten done. And in a way, that's kind of a good way to filter out the things that really need the attention, right? If they stay on that backlog for too long, then obviously they're not, contributing in some way. But I think founders get to this point where they feel like they have to do everything and be responsible for everything, and they make too many commitments and too many obligations. And they, I'm just launching a program right now called CEO Evolution. It's exactly that. It's like where you get to this point in your business where you're no longer helpful doing all the things, like being the linchpin, being that sole point of everything for your business. And I think it's that sense of responsibility and obligation. And if I don't do it, we're going to have to pay someone else to do it, and then our profits will decrease. Like that is, I think, what keeps people going, as opposed to, oh, I just have this really long to-do list and I'm trying to nail everything on my to-do list. I think it's like, if it's just me who I'm accountable to, I'm fine with letting things slide. It's when I've made a commitment and I have an obligation. And I think that's where a lot of founders get tripped up. And that is a scaling problem, right? Where it's that inflection point where they need to either hire somebody, or they need to figure out different ways of doing things, or they need a new business model, or they, whatever it might be. But it's that when I think burnout is sort of an inflection point where somebody's going to realize that that's what the business needs.
Hey, I've got a question. Do you guys think I'm awesome? Like,
You're what?
Do you think I'm awesome? Do you think I'm cool? Like, do you think I'm, kind of a badass?
Let's break down the word awesome.
Define cool.
Oh, I think that as a founder, like I want to show up in a way where I can do everything. I want to be superhuman. I want to be the person that can, I'll just take on more. Like as we're doing sprint planning, I'll just take on more commitments, more commitments, more commitments. And I think that that's very real. So I think that there's a second point that I want to make, Stephanie, which is, and I think you just made it, is we have a tendency to overcommit. And I think it's very, very real. And I think it can be very real oftentimes in service businesses as well. Because I'll tell you, it was way worse for me when I was in the service business than I am now and back to building products.
100%.
Because you're committing to clients and you want the clients to like you and you want them to like you because they want to, they, pay you. And that's how the business keeps going. But I as a founder, I overcommit, and I do this to this day, probably because I want y'all to think that I'm awesome. I want my employees to think I'm awesome. I want my customers to think I'm awesome. And I don't know if it's the same way for everybody, but there is a planning bias that we end up having where we tend to overestimate our capacity to get things done. And that's a universal truth. Matter of fact, it's a cognitive bias that's been pretty well studied at this point.
The problem is that I look at a day and I think I've got 24 hours to work. Right. And so these are the rules that I literally have to impose myself rules and write this manifesto that says, these are the things you can accept. And if I have those rules in my head, I'm good at creating the boundaries. But if I don't, then I'm likely to just be like, oh yeah, I can take another thing. I can do another thing. I can do another thing because I get excited, right? I actually get excited and interested and passionate about doing all these things. And then, at some point in time, it all falls through the cracks. Anthony, you're looking pensive.
You look a bit pensive.
So there's this thing that I realized, something about getting practitioners to be part of sales. And I'm going to make a connection here. So I used to think that the best people that were going to really close clients were the people that were going to do the work because they were the closest to the solution. They were generally speaking, they were the smartest people on connecting the dots to get from a customer's problem to the solution. And practitioners, especially when I worked with UX architects and UX designers, they just had this innate sense of connecting the customer's pain to the how we're going to solve the pain. And so I would get them involved in the sales processes, and they were terrible salespeople, and not because they didn't want to sell. It was because they were having to commit to the work. Like you're asking the same person to close the deal as that's going to actually have to do the work. So the more you commit, the more they committed, the more work they were signing themselves up for. So it was this perverse reverse incentive package. And so we had to separate sales and practitioners because salespeople, it's the common thing that everybody laughs at. If you've ever been in delivery and had to deliver on sales, it's like the salespeople deliver, promise something that we have no business in trying to solve. That happens every time, especially in services businesses. And that's the way it's supposed to work. That's a healthy business, by the way. Not right. To lie, but to push the team. So now what you're asking a founder to do is I have to both be the salesperson that I'm committing myself the work to, and I choose not to do that. Because I know that I'm going to commit to things that I don't want to fulfill on. So I'm just very careful on that overcommitment part because I know that's a recipe for disaster when revenue is driving it. So I only commit to things that maybe I don't have to deliver on, that I need somebody else to deliver on.
So we actually had a very different experience. We actually fired our whole sales team and we just did consultative selling, and it made the outcomes so much better for everybody.
But did you have somebody in the room whose responsibility it was to close?
Yes.
And was it the
All of
consultant?
us. Yes.
And that worked?
Yes. In fact, it was better because the delivery teams then were like rallying behind the work because they knew that we had
Kudos.
established the vision and the scope, and
You found a way not to hire
also know
salespeople.
how to
That
sell,
is
right?
amazing.
We know how to
I
sell,
love
we know how
the
to
fact that we've been talking about overcommitment and now we're talking about sales teams and how we
I know. Okay, so let me bring us back on track. So let me ask you both this question. And maybe Anthony, you can't answer this because you're perfect, but how do we know what are the signs that you're getting close? You're getting close to that burnout, however you define it. What starts to happen?
So
that
the
help you
thing
notice?
that I clue into is, how am I treating my wife and kids? Honestly,
Yeah.
like if I'm grumpy
Yeah.
with them, I'm like, oh, I need to step away. I need to back out of work and into them. When I'm grumpy, that means I'm tired. I'm not taking care of myself, and it's reflecting on my loved ones. That's one of the signs I have, is like if I can't be kind to my wife and kids, something's off balance.
That's so interesting. Chris, can you answer this question and tell me what comes up for you?
Mine are very transactional, which is, yes, I get tired. Yes, I think being grumpy is like, I have to reflect on that one. It's like, maybe there's probably some truth there for me too. But also, if I'm not doing the activities I need to do to stay mentally and physically healthy, then I know that something's wrong. And so for me, exercise, meditation, going for a walk, trying to be outside, doing something mentally to get away from work, those are all little check marks. And I literally have them in my planner. Like, if I'm doing this, I'm okay. If I'm not, I need to start asking some questions. Like, am I okay? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to discount the fact that we all, as entrepreneurs and not entrepreneurs, right? Everybody has that extra gear that they have. When you have to rally, you have to cram for a test, right? You have to rally behind a pitch or a deliverable or something, or you take it on a little bit more. The problem that I had was that I thought that I could stay in that gear the whole time, and you just can't.
Right. And that is the absolute truth, right? We can't.
Right.
And I think that the danger is that all the three of us, we've been there enough times to say, okay, we know you can't stay in that gear. We know it's not true that you can work. You can work 80, 90 hours in a week. You can't do it, maybe do it 2 weeks. 3 weeks, you're going to start to really struggle. And, as we get older, I think that time period of how long you can actually do that shortens as well. And so I think that the danger is that, Anthony, is that first-time founders, and again, this really kind of our target is early founders. They don't always know that, Stephanie. They just think that everybody else is outworking them, and they're scared that they're going to fail, and they have to tell their mom that they lost their money or whatever else, or their investors.
All true.
Right. And so I think that they get to this place where they don't have that ability to step back. And I think that founders today are way more conscious of their mental health than when we were coming up. But I still see it. I still see people really get themselves into bad positions because they just think that they're superhuman, and they're not. It's not possible to work in that gear, Anthony, nonstop. I
want to take you back, though, to sort of notice that both of you, and I would say I'm the same, the triggers for you, the things to notice for you are all outside of your work, right? And that's where it starts to manifest first. Because when I start to notice myself canceling my gym appointments then things have started to become unhealthy for me. When I'm not going out for walks because I feel like I'm wasting time I could have used to try and get through all of these responsibilities. When I'm not I don't want to go out and be social with my friends, or, spend time, like everything starts to become so focused that those are the triggers, and the triggers start to show up outside of work first, when everybody's sort of looking at, oh, how productive am I? It's not about that. It, like, by the time you're starting to look at how productive you are, it's almost too late, right? I think that's a really important piece, is that the triggers start to show up.
Stephanie, it's such a critically important point. I can do everything you just said is true. When you're starting to neglect personal relationships, when your friends ask you to go do something, you say no because you have to work. The problem is that it can feel good and productive to make those decisions.
You guys have friends?
I rent them. It's like,
No,
kind of like,
right. I don't have any friends.
It's kind of like Rent the Runway. I've got like,
okay.
Yeah, it's fair. It's that in the short term, it can feel better. It can feel better because you feel like you're more productive and you're crushing it and you're getting everything done. But again, that is a slippery slope, like you said, Stephanie, and it can lead to some tough spots. And so, I mean, not to jump it forward, but so what do you do? Like, okay, let's assume you get into that place. I'm genuinely curious how let's assume you notice, right? And that's not always true. Sometimes you're blind to the fact that you're getting burned out. But assuming that you're starting to notice, you're noticing you're tired, you're noticing you're grumpy, Anthony, I'm not working out, I'm not, meditating, I'm not doing any of the stuff I know I need to do. How do you get out of that place?
Well, the first thing is you have to step. I said it. You have to step away from the problem. One of the ways I'm able to do that is I've tried over the years to become good at more than one thing. So I know how to build campaigns. I know how to work in a spreadsheet. I know how to sit in front of Illustrator and design logos. Like I can bounce from one problem in an Excel spreadsheet, I use Google Sheets, to when I get stuck, I jump to something else that needs to get done that is completely unrelated to the problem that I'm having. So I'm able to be productive by bouncing around and coming back to the problem actually with more perspective. So that's one thing that I do. Obviously, I'll do the other things that a lot of people do, which is you just walk away from your computer, you go touch grass, or you go for a walk, or you make out with your wife, or do something that is not make out with your wife, make out with my wife.
I make out with your wife.
I make out with your wife too, Anthony. It's amazing. It's great.
I would too. I'm in.
Yeah, we all would.
So I guess understanding the triggers is one thing, but how do we actually create better mental hygiene inside of so we don't even get there, right? Like what helps you stay in a place where you're keeping yourself from burnout, where you're noticing your triggers, but you're also just proactively doing things that keep you grounded and
I've given up on mental health a long time ago, so I don't know how to answer this question.
Clearly,
yes,
we understand that. Chris, what about you?
So I'm going to answer Anthony's question and your question in the same thing by saying the research shows that play is critically important. And play can be, Anthony, going and doing something just totally creative when you're in very, very left brain, very analytical place. Going and doing something creative. And for you, I know, like building logos is play. It's fun for you. You enjoy that. And so that aspect of it can be very, very therapeutic. And so that's what the research shows. But Stephanie, to your point, you've said you have to draw boundaries and you have to create time boxes and you have to be disciplined around the things that you know are going to make you happier and you know are going to actually help. And so the really hard question, and I'll ask you both pointedly, when is the last time you've scheduled time to do something completely playful and fun? And maybe whimsical and maybe not, maybe completely not having to do with any of your business?
Last weekend, I went to an 80s dance party.
Amazing.
I
Right?
had hair up to here, bug catchers. I had blue eyeshadow. I had like an 80s outfit, and I just danced all night. It was
Also,
awesome.
where you caught the flu. So we knew the flu was worse in the
Probably
80s,
actually, it
which
was
is
shortly after that I got sick. Yeah.
that's exactly right. Okay.
COVID.
I mean, that's a perfect example. Dance and play are very closely related. All right, go, Anthony.
Outside of spending time with my family,
Yeah, but you play with your daughters. I know you do.
I do. I do. But I don't schedule, like, that's just part of the routine, right? You're saying, when do I take time out and go, I just need to go
You
play?
just said it's part of the routine. If it's part of the routine, then you're scheduling play. You're keeping space for playing with your daughters.
Yeah, but
That's
Can you just accept it and say I did a good job?
yeah. Well done. Well done. You're
Well
playing.
done, Anthony. Gold star.
no, that's not. So I'm trying to be authentic here and say that I don't know how else to say this. Like, time with my daughters, I do as a dad, because I love my daughters. It's not for me, in the sense that, in Stephanie's example, she went to an 80s dance party. That was for her. Right. That was
Certainly wasn't for everyone else that was watching me dance.
yeah, no, so of course not. And I don't dance for the benefit of everybody else. So I can't think of something where I do something for me.
I disagree,
I can't-
Anthony. You play with your daughters for you because being a dad is a part of your identity and it makes you happy to be a good dad. And so you're saying that you're doing it for other people, and then you're like, oh, whatever. And even if you don't love playing,
I really
Barbie,
don't
like,
want to watch another cartoon with my.
I know, but you
I
do
don't
wanna be a
look
good
forward to
dad.
that.
I
Huh?
love the fact that we're arguing about you being a good person, and you're arguing against it. You're
I'm like, no, I'm really
dude.
not. I really don't like doing.
So regardless of whether Anthony's doing it or not, I think we all kind of have gotten to the point that we need to schedule the things that these are the first things that fall off the schedule when founders get busy or overworked or whatever, but actually holding the line and making sure that quality of life, that balance, and it's not just like rest, it's actually good for your brain. Like, if you want to solve work problems, get your brain busy doing other things too that are more well-rounded. Do physical, the physical activity is incredibly important for me, I know, because it does all sorts of other things. Being creative, being playful, doing things you wouldn't normally do, solving puzzles. Like, my partner has always got a jigsaw puzzle going. Like, there's just something meditative about it. And whatever else resonates with you. I think what I'm hearing from both of you is this commitment to there being some fullness to what you're using your brain for.
I've switched it, actually. So honestly, I've fallen in love with the work. Like the work is play for me. Maybe that's why I don't struggle with burnout as much. I really love the work.
Me too, but when there's too much of it and too much responsibility and too much that I'm trying to fit into.
If I'm doing a jigsaw puzzle, I'm pining to go back to work.
Okay, well, Anthony's now we're dealing with addiction, so
you might be right. Like, I'm not saying I'm well balanced. I'm just saying I know I'm not the only one that feels that way.
You're not. However, I also know that you have been in times where you've loved the work, but also it was exhausting and tiring and sad and terrible, right? And so at least acknowledging the fact that is a pathway. I love the work too. I was telling a friend of mine, he said, "Hey, how are you?" Which is it's the rarest thing for somebody to actually ask how you are and care about the answer. So it's like, hey, no, really, how are you? I said, well, I'm happy as a clam. I love doing this shit. But in the moment, it's been a tough week. It's been hard.
Yeah.
It's stressful. It was a stressful week. But long term, I wouldn't be doing anything else. And I can keep that in perspective at this point.
Yeah.
Because I love it.
I got one
know
more
that's not
question.
the relationship.
I
Perspective.
got one more question for both of you that I want to chat about, and then we're going to move on to the speed round. But who do you keep around you to ensure that you are keeping that mental hygiene?
Other entrepreneurs, other founders. You,
Yeah,
Chris.
I was going to say y'all.
I have a small network of folks that I go try to help somebody else work through somebody else's problem. That keeps me grounded. Most of the time, because it's like, oh, they're just as screwed up as I am, right? I mean, because we all are, right? I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with founders is like, where I've said, I'm so sorry you're going through that, and so grateful that you are, because I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
There's nothing else like that.
And Chris, how do you answer that question? Who do you keep around you?
I will say that I have two groups of people, and the people that I spend the majority of the time with have no clue what I do for a living. And they might know that I'm a CEO, they may know that I'm a founder, but they don't really know, right? They don't really know, and I don't tell them. When they ask me about how my work is, I redirect and then ask them. Right? And they don't get it, because I think it's impossible to understand. And then I have a very small group of people like you guys where I can be like, holy crap. And you guys just get it. You understand, like, oh, it was an awful, terrible week. It was an awful, terrible week. Like, it was terrible, but it was also awesome. Like, it was great. Long term, it was awesome. It was just terrible week. Like, and you guys get it.
But who's noticing on your behalf that something's out of balance?
I will tell you that I need to do better with finding that, but it's got to be me. Like, I have to be the person that does it, because, and it's not because for any other reason other than I do hide. I don't tell people, in my life.
My wife notices, but she doesn't say you're burned out. She says you're being an ass. And
Right.
that's the indication. Oh, okay. Yeah, I must be, I must need a break.
How about you,
My
Stephanie?
partner and my best friends up here are both entrepreneurs, and they were both at the point where they were like, I'm worried about you. They both understand the work hard. And when I hear them say, I'm worried about you, now we've got a problem, right? Okay.
I do have one friend who usually I show up for that friend. And when that friend goes, you okay? Like, yeah, maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Right. Okay. We could probably have another hour conversation on this, but let's dive into the speed round. We've got lots of great questions, and I think this is possibly worthy of another conversation down the road. You ready? Are you mentally ready? Okay, you both get to answer.
Where did Chris go?
What?
I somehow switched my camera to the front of my computer.
Chris just left.
Yeah.
That could have been
he didn't want to do the speed round because he knows his boundaries.
I'm a little burned out of this conversation.
A little burned out on the speed round. That's right. All right, starting with you, Anthony. What percentage of your work week is spent in deep, uninterrupted flow?
80%.
Chris?
2, and it needs to be higher.
You have 1 hour. Sleep or strategy?
Sleep.
Anthony?
Strategy.
Founders should be lonely. Agree?
Should be?
These are your questions.
I think founders are lonely. Should or shouldn't doesn't belong in that sentence.
Well, write it better next time.
I'm gonna say yes, you should be lonely, because everybody that does exceptional things is gonna be lonely.
What kills more startups, bad product or burned out founder?
Bad product.
Very,
Bad
very
product.
close edge, but I will say bad product. But I will fully acknowledge that there are a lot of
Founders-
startups that die.
The founder's burned out because this product sucks. So
All right, fair.
Maybe he has a shitty team or she. Okay. Your co-founder admits that they are frying. Force a sabbatical or push through the launch?
Chris?
Oh, I mean,
Oh,
you're supposed to go first, but I'll say you have to take care of each other as co-founders. And so the person matters more, and you have to take care of each other.
I don't know. I think it's very, so this is going to be a longer answer, but I think it's very context dependent, because I think if they're fried, there's a reason why they're fried. So I would want to understand why they're fried. Why are they burned out? What problem can't they get through? So I would have a conversation with them first. A lot of times it's yes, you care about the founder, that they need time away, but most of the time when my partners or co-founders have had problems, it has nothing to do with work. It's something at home, and absolutely they need to go take care of home first.
It also is very obvious of why he always tells us just to suck it up, Stephanie. It's like, I'm tired of how to founder. He's just like, suck it up.
Seriously, how hard is your job? Seriously.
Right. Yes.
I have a client who just did a big, huge, like their annual big, huge launch event, which, is where they get a ton of their income from. The day before, two team members came to me and they were like, I'm done. I can't do this. I'm not. And they were critical to the event. And I'm like, oh
my goodness.
What they needed was to be heard. And we swapped out. There was like one of them, there was one particular part of the event that she was so anxious about and just freaking out about. And so we swapped her out for it. And then I just stayed in touch with them over the course of the event, because it was too late till they canceled the event to cancel the launch. But I just stayed in touch with them over the course of, and they just knowing that there was a lifeline out there was enough to get them through the launch. So I would say you can still get through the launch, but we need to adjust and understand where the greatest sources of anxiety and fatigue are coming from. Okay. Good conversation, you guys. We have a couple of deep dive resources: The Entrepreneurial Instinct by Monica Mehta, and Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagoski. There are lots and lots of books out, and lots of podcasts, and lots of resources out there around burnout. Again, it comes back to understanding yourself, understanding what fuels your energy, what sucks your energy, and how you build almost a personal manifesto that builds the rules and that allow you to stay out of that place. All right. Chris, you want to take us home?
We are genuinely grateful for you, the founders, the people that create value. We like to say you're the pioneers of economic prosperity. If you like this episode, any of our episodes, just go ahead and like it, subscribe. We really appreciate it. It does help us out. It helps Anthony's ego. I mean, and it's incredibly fragile.
I have a very fragile ego.
It's incredibly fragile ego. So help build Anthony's ego by subscribing.
I mean, it kind of goes with the territory.
Aren't you fond of saying that middle-aged men constantly need, encouragement, right? Like validation. Well, please validate us. Please validate us by subscribing to our channels. We appreciate you. We're genuinely grateful. Continue the great and awesome work that you're doing out there, founders. You are not alone. We're there with you along the ride. And we are so appreciative of just being this small part of your day. So have a great one.